You don't need to be the smartest, richest, or most experienced person in the room to make powerful sales. What you need is emotional intelligence. You need to connect, not just communicate. When someone buys, they don't buy a product. They buy a feeling, a solution, a transformation. And if you want to increase your income, you must master the emotions that move people. Speech title: Easy Emotional Sales Secret Style, inspired by Myron Golden. Persuasive, energetic, faith-driven, practical storytelling. Speech: you don't need to be the smartest, richest, or most experienced person in the room to make powerful sales. What you need is emotional. You need to connect, not just communicate. When someone buys, they don't buy a product. They buy a feeling, a solution, a transformation. And if you want to increase your income, you must master the emotions that move people. Every major purchase decision is made emotionally and justified logically. Think about it. People don't buy a car, they buy status, freedom, and excitement. They don't buy a house, they buy safety, identity, and security. They don't buy coaching, they buy hope, breakthrough, and transformation. If you want to sell with ease, stop focusing only on features and benefits. Learn to speak to the heart before you speak to the head. Emotion unlocks the buying decision. Sales isn't manipulation, it's alignment. When you help someone connect emotionally to their desired future and show them how your offer gets them there, that's not sales, that's service. And people reward those who understand them. They open up their wallets for the ones who speak to their deepest desires and fears. It's not about scripts. It's about sincerity. It's not about pressure. It's about positioning. You position yourself as a solution to the pain they no longer want and the dream they desperately desire. So what does this mean for you? It means you must become a master of emotional awareness. You must learn the internal language your ideal client speaks and reflect it back to them. That's when the magic happens. That's when people say, "I feel like you're in my head." And when they feel that scene, the sale is already done. Let me remind you, emotion sells, but authenticity seals. Never fake emotion. Instead, truly care. Step into the life of the person you're serving. Feel their pain. Celebrate their dreams. Then become the bridge. If you want to close more deals, don't chase money, chase meaning. Help people move from stuck to soaring, from frustrated to fulfilled. Sales becomes easy when you make it emotional. It becomes natural when you lead with heart. And when you sell with heart, not only will your bank account grow, your impact will multiply. 6 key points. Easy emotional sales secrets. Emotion drives action. People buy based on how they feel, not just what they think. Speak to desires and fears, not just features. People buy from those who make them feel understood. Feelings first, logic later. Position your offer as the emotional solution. Justify with logic, but lead with impact. Position, don't push. Sell by aligning with the customer's vision, not by convincing them. Your offer should feel like their idea. Authenticity wins. Be real. Fake emotions repel. True care builds trust that turns conversations into conversion. Become the bridge to their desired future. While we often like to believe that people are rational buyers, making decisions based on data and facts, the truth is that emotion is the spark that ignites the decision. Logic may justify the purchase afterward, but emotion is what gets the buyer to move. When someone decides to invest in something, whether it's a product, a service, or an opportunity, they do so because they feel something powerful. It could be hope, desire, relief, frustration, fear, excitement, or inspiration. But it's always emotional energy that pushes them into motion. Think about your own life. You've likely made decisions that didn't fully make sense on paper, but they felt right. You may have chosen a job that paid less, but aligned more with your purpose. You might have joined a coaching program not because you broke down the modules, but because you felt seen and understood by the person presenting it. You moved emotionally first and then justified it intellectually. That's how humans are wired. We're emotional creatures trying to make sense of our feelings with logic. Sales at its core is understanding this basic truth and using it with integrity to help people make powerful decisions that serve them. The mistake most people make in sales is that they try to educate their way into a yes. They pour on the facts, they list features, they explain benefits, but all of that appeals to the head, not the heart. And the heart makes the decision. If the person listening isn't emotionally stirred, nothing you say will land. It might sound good, but it won't move them. And until they're moved, they won't act. Action is the fruit of emotion. Always. Emotional sales doesn't mean manipulation. It means connection. It means entering the conversation already happening inside the mind and heart of your prospect. They have desires they haven't spoken out loud. They have fears they hide from the world. They have a vision they wish someone would understand. When you speak to those unspoken emotions, they feel safe. They feel seen. And that feeling builds trust faster than any spreadsheet or bullet point ever could. If someone is struggling financially and you talk only about how your product is priced lower than the competitors, you might get a nod. But if you talk about how stressful it feels to work so hard and still barely make ends meet, and then present your offer as a way to help them reclaim peace and possibility, you've now engaged their heart. That's what moves them. You made it personal. You gave their pain a voice. And you positioned yourself as a solution that speaks to their emotions, not just their intellect. Sales becomes easy when you stop trying to impress and start trying to connect. You don't need to be perfect with your words. You just need to be emotionally present. Listen deep, seek with empathy. Tap into the energy behind their questions and concerns. What are they really afraid of? What do they truly want? The more you practice listening emotionally, the more naturally your words will land where it matters most, their heart. People don't take action when they understand. They take action when they feel understood. That's the power of emotional sales. It's not about hype or pressure. It's about truth delivered with empathy. It's about becoming the messenger of their dreams and the translator of their pain. When you do that, people don't just buy from you. They believe in you. Because you didn't just offer them a product. You offered them hope. And that's what makes them say yes. Emotion drives action in ways that logic never can. While we often convince ourselves that we are rational beings making well thought out decisions, the truth is that most of our choices are rooted in emotion. Sales is no different. Whether someone is buying a luxury car, signing up for a coaching program, or purchasing a new piece of technology, the final decision is driven by how they feel, not just what they know. Emotion is the invisible force that compels people to take action, even when the facts aren't fully aligned. It's what gives someone the courage to say yes, to take a leap, to invest in themselves or their future. Think about your own major decisions. Did you marry your spouse because they checked all the logical boxes, or because you felt deeply connected to them? Did you invest in a product or service because it made sense on paper, or because something inside you felt like it was the right move? Every significant life change, whether personal or professional, is emotionally charged. People quit jobs, change careers, start businesses, and invest thousands, not because of spreadsheets and bullet points, but because something inside them moved. That movement is emotion. And if you want to inspire others to act through your sales process, you must understand and speak to their emotions first. Emotion is the language of the heart. It's tied to stories, identity, pain, dreams, fear, and hope. These are the levers that move people. When you speak to someone's emotions, you aren't just giving them information, you're giving them permission. Permission to believe that change is possible. Permission to imagine a different future. Permission to invest in something greater than their current reality. Most people are not held back by a lack of knowledge. They're stuck in fear, doubt, and uncertainty. If you want them to move, you need to make them feel like it's possible and safe to move. Salespeople who focus only on logic often wonder why people don't take action, even when the offer is solid. But the truth is, people don't buy products, they buy feelings. They want to feel significant, secure, successful, free, confident, valued. When your offer taps into those feelings, it becomes more than a transaction. It becomes transformation. Emotion creates that bridge. If someone doesn't feel like you understand them, they'll hesitate, they'll stall, they'll go silent. But when they feel seen, heard, and valued, their resistance drops, their trust rises, and trust is what drives conversion. You must become a student of emotion if you want to become a master of sales. Learn to read the cues in someone's voice. Listen not just to what they say, but what they mean. What's the pain behind the problem? What dream are they chasing beneath the surface? When you tap into those deeper emotional layers, the sale becomes effortless. Not because you pushed, but because you connected. That connection is powerful, it's personal, and it's what causes someone to lean in and say, I don't know why, but this just feels right. Don't rely on logic to do what only emotion can. Information may educate, but emotion activates. If you want people to take the next step, you must first take them on an emotional journey. Show them the pain of staying the same and the joy of transformation. Help them feel the consequences of delay and the benefits of action. Paint a picture that stirs something in their spirit. That's what drives decisions. That's what unlocks breakthrough. Because emotion, more than anything else, is the fuel behind every powerful choice. When people feel it, they move. In the world of sales, the order in which you present your message can be the difference between resistance and resonance. One of the biggest mistakes people make is starting with logic, facts, figures, features, and processes. But buyers don't move because of logic. They move because of feelings. Emotion is what opens the door. Logic is what walks them through it. When you flip the order, when you start with emotion and follow with reasoning, you create a natural pathway for the buyer to say yes. People need to feel before they can truly believe, and only after they believe will they commit. When someone is presented with a sales offer, their first reaction isn't to evaluate spreadsheets or compare statistics. Their first reaction is internal. They ask themselves, do I feel like this is for me? Do I trust this person? Does this feel aligned with where I want to go? These are emotional questions. They're processed in the heart before they're filtered through the head. If the answer to those questions is yes, then the mind starts looking for reasons to justify the decision. But if the heart says no, it doesn't matter how perfect the logic is, nothing will land. That's why feelings must come first. Sales isn't about dumping data. It's about directing desire. You have to stir something inside the prospect that makes them want to change, grow, shift, or that stirring begins with stories, with language that evokes vision, with the energy of empathy and understanding. When someone feels that you understand them, when they sense that your message is aligned with their inner world, they begin to trust you. And trust is emotion. Once that emotional bond is created, then you can bring in the logic to confirm what their heart already wants to do. Think about how people buy cars. They don't walk into a dealership because they read about engine specification. They walk in because they want to feel the thrill of driving something new, the pride of owning something luxurious, or the freedom of going wherever they please. That's emotion. The horsepower and fuel efficiency, that's logic, and it comes after they've already decided they want it. The same is true in coaching, real estate, fitness, and every other high-value offer. People buy transformation, not information. They buy the feeling of progress, of success, of identity, of finally solving a problem they've struggled with. And that's why the emotional story always has to lead. Your job is not to convince someone with facts, it's to compel them with feeling. You have to speak to the dream they have and the pain they carry. You must describe their internal world better than they can. Because when they hear you say what they've only thought silently, they feel connected. They feel understood. That emotional connection lowers resistance and raises belief. Once belief is present, then they're ready to hear how your offer works. That's when logic becomes powerful, but only because emotion unlocked the door first. This isn't manipulation, it's alignment. It's stepping into the emotional space of your buyer and showing them that you see them, that you get them, and then showing them the path forward. You can have the best product in the world, but if people don't feel it's for them, they won't take action. They won't move.
Because people don't take action when they understand. They take action when they feel understood. And only after they've emotionally bought in will they use logic to make the decision feel safe. Feelings lead, logic follows, always. Sales is not about pressure, it's about positioning. The most effective way to get someone to say yes isn't by pushing them into a decision, but by placing yourself and your offer in such a way that saying yes feels like the natural next step. When you push, people resist. When you position, people respond. Pushing creates tension. Positioning creates alignment. And alignment is what converts interest into action. The best salespeople don't chase customers, they attract them. They don't convince, they clarify. Because when something is positioned properly, it speaks for itself. People don't like to be sold to, but they love to buy. And the reason they love to buy is because buying gives them a sense of control, power, and movement. But the moment you begin to push, that sense of control disappears. They start to feel like the decision isn't really theirs, it's being imposed on them. And that subtle shift is enough to create hesitation. Great sales isn't about taking away someone's power, it's about highlighting their power and showing them how your offer helps them reclaim it. That's what effective positioning does. It reframes the sales process from persuasion to partnership. To position yourself correctly, you must first understand your prospect's deepest problem and highest desire. Then you place your offer as the bridge between the two. You become the pathway, the solution, the guide, but you let them be the hero. You don't need to pressure them when your offer is clearly the key to what they already want. Instead of telling them why they should buy, you show them what's possible and where your solution fits into that vision. That creates ownership. And when someone takes ownership of the decision, they buy with confidence, not reluctance. Positioning also means understanding timing and context. Just because your offer is good doesn't mean it's good for them right now. Pushing ignores timing. Positioning honors it. When you try to rush someone into a decision they're not emotionally or mentally ready to make, you create resistance. But when you position your offer as something that makes sense within their timeline, you build trust. You demonstrate that you care more about their success than your sale. And that level of integrity is rare. People feel it, and they remember it. Think of the difference between someone who's desperate to close a deal and someone who's certain about the value they bring. Desperation pushes, certainty position. When you know your product or service works, when you've seen the transformation it creates, when you're confident in the results you deliver, you don't need to push, you just need to position. You need to paint the picture, ask the right questions, listen deeply, and invite them into the possibility. That's what draws people in. That's what creates trust. And trust is the foundation of all lasting sales. When someone feels like you're trying to get something from them, they shut down. But when they feel like you're offering something for them, they open up. That's the power of positioning. You're not trying to take, you're here to give, to guide, to solve. And that changes everything. Sales becomes less about hustle and more about alignment, less about convincing and more about clarity. You don't need to pressure anyone when your value is obvious, your positioning is strong, and your belief is unshakable. Positioning makes selling feel effortless because it removes friction and invites decision. It helps people see the value for themselves. And when people see the value clearly, they don't need to be pushed. They choose to step forward, not because you made them, but because you showed them. Authenticity wins because people can sense the truth. In a world where consumers are constantly bombarded with polished marketing, rehearsed pitches, and scripted sales calls, authenticity cuts through the noise like a sharp blade. When you are real, honest, and transparent, people lean in. They may not remember every word you say, but they will remember how you made them feel. And when that feeling is built on trust and truth, it becomes the foundation of lasting relationships and repeat business. People don't want to buy from a perfect salesperson. They want to buy from a real person who genuinely cares. Sales is a human experience. At its core, it's one person helping another solve a problem, meet a need, or fulfill a desire. And people are far more likely to say yes when they believe the person in front of them is honest, clear, and emotionally connected to the solution they're offering. That's where authenticity shines. You don't need to exaggerate or pretend to be something you're not. You just need to believe in what you're offering and communicate it with heart. Authenticity doesn't mean oversharing or being unprofessional. It means standing in your truth, speaking from your experience, and refusing to play a role just to close a sale. The moment people feel like you're hiding something or performing a script, they back away. Trust breaks, energy shifts, and even if the offer is good, the experience feels hollow. But when your energy matches your words, when what you're saying is backed by conviction and clarity, people feel safe, they feel understood, and most importantly, they feel respected. That emotional safety is what moves them to act. Authenticity builds emotional currency, and that currency is often more valuable than price, features, or bonuses. You don't have to be the loudest or most charismatic person in the room to win in sales. You just have to be real. When you speak from your heart, when you share stories that are honest and unfiltered, when you admit you don't have all the answers, but you believe deeply in your solution, people listen. And not only do they listen, they try. Because your words aren't just polished, they're rooted in personal experience and genuine belief. That kind of connection isn't forced, it's felt. The most powerful closers aren't the ones with the most aggressive tactics. They're the ones with the most aligned energy. Their words match their actions. Their posture matches their promise. Their presence reflects their purpose. And that kind of alignment is magnetic. People are drawn to those who live what they speak, who sell from service, not scarcity, who show up not to impress, but to impact. Authenticity also means having the courage to say no when your product isn't the right fit. It means choosing long-term reputation over short-term revenue. When you put the person before the profit, people remember, and often they come back. They refer others. They trust you even more because you showed them you care about their best interest, not just your bottom line. That kind of trust is earned, not given, and authenticity is the fastest way to earn it. You don't need to become someone else to succeed in sales. You need to become more of who you already are, the version of you that truly wants to help, that believes in what you offer, that sees the human behind the prospect. That's the version people will buy from, not because they were convinced, but because they were connected, because they felt the honesty in your voice and the alignment in your message. And in a world full of facades, that kind of realness is rare, and it always wins. Every great sale is rooted in a great story. People don't just buy products, they buy possibility. They buy the vision of who they could become, the transformation they could experience, and the pain they could finally leave behind. Story is what paints that picture. It's what brings the future into the present and allows the buyer to emotionally connect with the journey. When you serve the story, you stop selling and start guiding. You stop pushing and start pulling. The story becomes the vehicle that carries people from hesitation to decision, from confusion to clarity, from doubt to belief. Most people are living inside their own internal story, a story filled with frustration, desire, fear, and unspoken hope. They're trying to make sense of their current struggle and searching for a way out. When you present your offer as just a list of features or benefits, it speaks only to the surface. But when you wrap that offer inside a story, especially a story that mirrors their own emotional journey, you bypass their logic and go straight to the heart. And once the heart is engaged, the mind will find reasons to follow. Serving the story means you must become a storyteller, not a salesperson. You must learn how to paint vivid pictures with your words, help people see the pain of staying where they are and the freedom of where they could go. Use stories of past clients, personal experiences, and future pacing to help them feel the outcome before they ever make the purchase. When someone can see themselves in the story you tell, they start to believe that change is possible, and belief is the birthplace of decision. You serve the story by making your prospect the hero. They're not buying into your success, they're looking for the path to their own. Your job is to guide them through the transformation. Position your product or service as the tool they'll use, not the center of the story. When people see themselves conquering their struggle, breaking through limitations, or reaching a goal with the help of what you offer, the sale becomes organic. It doesn't feel like a pitch. It feels like a chapter in their journey that just makes sense. Stories also build trust. They show that you understand. They make you relatable. Instead of speaking in abstract terms, stories root your message in emotion and experience. They answer questions the buyer didn't know they had. They silence objections before they're even raised. And most importantly, they engage attention in a way that facts never could. The human brain is wired for stories. We remember them, we retell them, we act on them. That's why stories are so powerful in sales. They create an emotional echo that lasts far beyond the moment of the conversation. When you serve the story, you also bring humanity into your process. You remind people that they're not alone. You show them that others have faced the same struggle and found victory. That reminder matters more than any discount, deadline, or bonus. It builds belief and urgency from the inside out. People buy when the story becomes real to them, when it moves from theory to possibility. You don't need to have the perfect words, but you do need to have the right story, one that aligns with the emotions your audience is already feeling, one that shows them a way forward, one that makes them feel something strong enough to act. When your story serves the prospect, the sale serves itself, because people don't remember the pitch, they remember the feeling. They remember the story that stirred something inside them, and that's what drives decisions every time.